back to Swoop Show Primetime, and our guest today is Josh Damigo. How you doing, Josh?
So warm. No, it's good. I'm good, man. This is cool.
We're glad to have you on the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and how you got started in music.
All right. Well, I'm from San Diego. I live there now, and I guess I've been playing there for about 6 years. I started music because I played college soccer, tore my ACL, MCL, meniscus, and decided that wasn't for me anymore. So I sat on a couch for about a month straight and just started writing songs. A couple weeks later, someone said, you should go to an open mic. I said, well, what's an open mic? So I showed up with the stats, and then I just started watching people. I was terribly stage fright. I just didn't like it. So I watched the people perform. I took notes like a good student. And then after a few weeks, I got up on stage, and a couple weeks later, I was playing regularly. So since then, I've been blessed to open for a lot of really cool bands, meet a lot of really cool people, and now we're at the point where we're releasing a new full-length album, and so it's, man, it's been, if I had to start over, I would not do it again, but it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun.
Good. When it comes to writing songs, I read a story about the song we just played, If I Had a Dollar. And I found that quite amusing, but you get inspirations from all places. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, this album was all about moving to LA for a girl, and then it not really working out. I mean, in the sense of like she broke up with me the day I got there, and so I kind of slept in my car for a few weeks figuring out what am I going to do next. So it's the highs and lows of that whole relationship and that journey of going from a San Diego accomplished singer-songwriter to going to LA where nobody cares that you're a singer-songwriter. And so it's all that stuff in the middle. Well, the story about If I Had a Dollar was there was a girl that I was talking to while I was in LA, and she thought that I was hitting her up at night as a booty call. And I was like, whoa, come on, I'm way too slick for that. Like, you can't catch me with that one. But I said, sweetheart, if I had a dollar, I'd spend it all on you. And then I went, I gotta go. And I wrote the song, and I mean, it literally was like a 5-minute, it just came out, and it was done, and it was one of those songs where after you were done, you were just kind of like, well, that's a good song. And I played it the week after that at a really loud bar, and all of a sudden the whole place just went quiet. And it's one of those songs where for some reason there's something about it that makes a room just like swell to that. That was the most awesome fan crash I've ever seen.
One of those days.
That was awesome.
We got planes, we got trucks, and now we got the
We need to light something on fire.
Exploded here in the studio.
I wish that you guys could have seen that. That was awesome.
I saw it all looked like slow motion. I was like, I
It
could try
was.
to jump over there and catch it.
It was.
But I would probably then knock over all the stuff that's over here. Oh my God.
Oh, wow. Who are your musical influences?
Oh man, so many. It gets more as you get further and further into music. When I first started, Sean Mullins was, like I talked about him earlier, was the first guy that I heard. That song Lullaby really made me go, man, I really want to tell a story. And my first song that people really gravitated towards was called Pocket Change. And that song was almost a straight rip-off of his song. And as I get further and further down the line, I go, yeah, that really sounds like his song. I should probably write a better song.
But it's pay royalties.
Right, exactly. Hey, send an email and a thank you note saying, hey, I ripped you off. I'm now making a career off of it. Jim Croce, when I was a kid, was the guy I listened to nonstop, and I've got one of his tracks on the album, and his son AJ is playing on the album with me on piano.
Oh, wait,
so I mean,
cool.
like, that's cool to see that come full circle. But the guy that right now is really influencing me is someone you guys might know of. His name's Steve Poltz, San Diego singer-songwriter. He wrote "You Were Meant for Me" that Jules sang and made popular. He was in a band called the Rugburns, and that guy is literally a spaz. I mean, he goes up on stage and he just spazzes out and plays an acoustic guitar, loops, dances. He can make an entire room of like 600, 700 people feel like they're the only person in the room. And that is something that I think is very special when you've got a singer-songwriter that doesn't need effects or a full band behind him. He can just captivate a grip of people just like that. So I'd say those are probably the three top: Sean Mullins, Jim Croce, Steve Poltz.
Very cool. Very cool. When you just started, doing your own performance and stuff like that, and getting up on stage, did you, a lot of people, like, as you say, you're kind of hard on yourself, and you make multiple revisions. You get back and evaluate what you've done and figure out what you felt was worked and didn't work.
Every show. I mean, like, my band and I would go to this place called Rutford's in North Park that is like the worst food you've ever had. I mean, just you go there and we're always like, why are we coming here? What is this place? But it's been open since the 60s, and it's just a spot. And we would always go and we would go over everything in the show. Hey, how did you feel about this song? How did you feel about that song? I feel like that's a really huge thing to actually sit back and watch a performance. The hardest thing for me is to sit back and listen to a show. If I get a CD and put it in after the show and listen to it and hear back what I've done, it's literally like just refining, the whole refining process. You can't get better if you don't know where you're bad. But that also comes from being a sports guy. If you mess up in sports, what do? You run a lap. If you mess up really bad, you don't even get balls out during practice. You're just doing liners, and it's a conditioning day. Mm-hmm. And so I think that hard-nosed way of thinking has stuck with me. I mean, I played basketball, baseball, and soccer growing up. Every sport I was in, that's all I did. And so bringing that mentality to music makes it so that I'm much less sensitive than most songwriters. If someone goes, "Hey, dude, your song sucks," I'm like, "Yeah? Tell me how. How is it bad? How can I make it better?" And then they'll give their opinion, and usually they're absolutely wrong. And then you just go, "Okay, you're an idiot. Thanks for buying the CD." So I mean, really, what you do is you just keep pushing and pushing, and you keep just comparing yourselves to the bigs. What is John Mayer doing that I'm not? Why is he what does his song have that one of mine doesn't? All right, well, let's get better. And so it's a little bit of being self-aware and seeing what's going on around you and learning to grow and not being offended when someone tries to help you. So,
yeah. Well, and I was going back, when people are giving you criticism, you have to know who you're talking to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? A fan who, whatever, what's their bias, but always knowing that is incredibly helpful and kind of help you on your way. But again, sometimes they don't know what the hell they're talking about.
And sometimes you can meet someone. I mean, they haven't been playing 6 years at clubs. They don't know. I mean, a guy came up to me once and he was like, "Hey, you started with the slow song and ended with the slow song. It was very effective, but you probably shouldn't do that." I'm like, "You just said it was very effective." Like, yeah, I shut everybody up and then brought them in and then went off, on them. And then that was actually one of the things that Steve Poltz, who I talked about earlier, had an influence. He emailed me one day because I had gone into a radio programmer's office and given him my CD and then sat there and watched him listen to it and take notes, and he brings it back and goes, "Hey, good job in the album, sounds good, you don't have a single hit on there." And it's like, okay, well, cool. Well, that can hurt if you really care what he thinks, but at the same time, people don't come to my shows because I've got a radio single. They come because I grind and because I'm active with them and because they feel like they're a part of my music. And so knowing what your strong points are as opposed to your weak points. I read a book called Ignore Everybody by a guy named Hugh McLeod. And I would tell anybody to read it because I have a low attention span. ADD goes up the wazoo. I'm on to something else. This guy wrote a book, 40 chapters. Each of them are 2 pages long. And it's literally about just ignoring what anybody says and just doing your thing. And one of the things that he wrote in there that was the best thing I'd ever heard was, Bob Dylan can't sing or play the guitar, but he's the best songwriter in the history of music. And it was just like, fair enough. And you know what? One person might not think it's a hit, but you never know.
Right.
I mean, look at, what's that song that's really popular now? Tonight. And it's got this, hook, and it starts the song off, it's really slow, and then all of a sudden it goes into this beat, and then it goes back down, and it's musical whiplash. But at the same time, it works, and people are buying it. Who would have thought that Justin Bieber got told a million times, no, there's no market for a 16-year-old singer. Are you kidding me? Yeah. That kid is huge. So, in all honesty, nobody's opinion really matters, just as long as you just keep pushing, you keep working. I mean, it doesn't matter. Even if you're terrible, someone's going to like you. So it's just fun.